On Larry King Now, actress Mira Sorvino.
Meeting people who were human trafficking survivors was one of the most powerful things in my life. I'd never seen people who had suffered so much except for Holocaust survivors.
Yes, that's the only thing it can be.
Their eyes just had this excoriated quality to them, that they had suffered so much that I just saw the true nature of evil is really out there, alive and well today.
Plus,
it's in the style of A Lethal Weapon or, 48 Hours or one of those things, but it's fresh. It's new because of these guys and their dialogue and their relationship. It's very right now, and it's hilarious. You will laugh the entire movie.
All next on Larry King Now. Hey, welcome to Larry King Now. I'm Dennis Miller, filling in for Larry today. Happy to welcome actress Mira Sorvino. Mira starred in films like Romy and Michelle's High School Reunion, Human Trafficking, and Norma Jean and Marilyn. She won an Academy Award, the Oscar, and a Golden Globe for her performance in Woody Allen's Mighty Aphrodite in 1995. In addition to acting, Mira is known for her activism and has been a UN ambassador combating human trafficking in the news this week. Last couple weeks since 2009, Mira currently stars alongside Kumail Nanjiani and Dave Bautista in Stuber. It's playing in theaters right now. Your part, I assume you play the police lieutenant, right? You're the boss of the cop who jumps in the car with the kid.
The captain of Dave Bautista, who plays Vic, who is obsessed with the haunting that his partner got killed on an assignment with him, and the bad guy got away, and he feels it's his fault for letting him get away because he had him and then he lost him, and then he shot his partner.
So that's his subtext.
And so he's obsessed with this, and I am telling him, you need to sort of let it go now. It's been 2 years. It's not your fault. Sometimes things just happen. Take some time off. Go be with your daughter, who I'm sort of like an aunt figure to his daughter, played by Natalie Morales. But he goes and gets LASIK surgery, but then he gets a tip connecting him to that killer again, Tejo. And so he commandeers an Uber because he cannot drive, and because he doesn't want me to know that he's doing this, because he's kind of going rogue.
Yes.
And he picks up, Kumail playing Stu, a mild-mannered, very intellectual, slightly nerdy millennial Uber driver, and he starts calling him Stuber. And Stu is obsessed with keeping his car clean and getting his 5-star rating, and just trying to make it to the girl he's in love with. He's got a best friend whom he's in love with, and she doesn't really know, and he wants to get to her this night because she's just broken up with somebody, and he thinks he has a chance. And fate has another idea.
Life falls into his lap.
Yes, and so, but the great thing about these guys is they're polar opposites. The characters, it's like the best odd couple pairing I've seen in many years, because Kumail is really thoughtful and intelligent, but he's also playing this kind of, delicate male. He's a guy who he's a pacifist.
Very in touch with his
his dream
side,
is perhaps one day to be part of a microbrewery, brewing some kind of pale winter ale. And you've got Dave Bautista, who just retired from the WWE, by the way. And he is a grizzly of a man, although when you get to know him, you realize he's all teddy bear. He's just the sweetest person. I mean, just a doll. But he's very intimidating. He's huge. His head is, just twice or 3 times the size of other people's heads. And,
a badass and a nerd.
And just, really brave. And really kind of Neanderthal in terms of his capacity for emotional connection to people. He never tells his daughter how he feels about her. He's never, he just doesn't go out on a limb, but he's deeply, deeply burning with this guilt about the partner.
That sounds more serious than the trailer reads.
Right, and the trailer just shows you the sort of highlights of those explosions and the guffaw lines. But honestly, most of the lines are guffaw, but these two men sort of have this dialogue about the best way to be a man. And they each come a little bit towards each other in it. So you have the Neanderthal sort of softening and moderating, and you've got the
nerd will have a hero moment somewhere down the road.
The nerd who starts to find his courage and a little bit of his inner aggression, and it all works beautifully.
Now, you as the commander, usually that's a two-way communication system. Is a lot of your part off? How do you commingle with these two?
Well, at the beginning, you see me call him in, and I'm talking to him, and I'm trying to dissuade him from this obsession with Tejo.
The Bautista guy, he's the only one who works for you.
Yes, I'm working with him, and I have a very brief contact with Kumail in this story.
Who was the director? Did he have good
Michael
moves?
Dowse. He had such great ideas about how to take this script, which is by Tripper Clancy, who won a screenwriting contest. Like, this is an original screenplay. It's not a sequel. It's not based on a book. It's not based on something else.
Cool. Hollywood
it's not a superhero
magic.
movie, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's in the style of a Lethal Weapon or, you know, 48 Hours or one of those things, but it's fresh. It's new because of these guys and their dialogue and their relationship. It's very right now, and it's hilarious. Like, you will laugh the entire movie.
Now listen, you have done stunning work over the years. Really, I'm such a fan, and do you still get as juiced by it? The mere ultimate act of acting for an actor. Do you still get jazzed?
I do. I love acting. I love performing. I love being in comedies. I mean, in this story, honestly, I'm much more of a straight guy in it. I'm the straight man. I'm not the funny one. But just being on a comedy, just knowing that everybody is trying to make people happy, you know, just make them laugh, do something ridiculous, that is just a great energy. And I'm always so happy when I'm on a comedy and I'm kind of adding my little improv riffs to things. You know, like, I just love those little moments where something weird happens, you kind of go with it, and the camera's still rolling, and then sometimes that ends up in the edit, you know.
You have to serve the hard drive, but to put the colorature on it is a beautiful, I don't know, it's fun.
It's so
like,
much fun.
What a fun job.
You know, like, that's
I've been in 5 movies, but I do remember thinking, oh, this could get intoxicating.
Right,
this
but
is fun.
Just being in the business of comedy is fun. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a little bit more fun than playing really dark movies where everybody dies, or it's, you know, about
I've had bad
heavy
jobs.
stuff.
Showbiz, and the fun part of it is not one of them. When we come back, Mira Sorvino on her activism and why she's so passionate about being a voice of change. Her film is Stuber. It's in theaters now. Do not go away. Hey, welcome back to Larry King Now. Dennis Miller filling in for Larry today. And my guest is Mira Sorvino, who I think is a stunning actress, and she's also got good karma, doing a lot of nice things. Tell me about your official role with the UN, and how does that happen? You must be so enamored when I guess they got to come to you. It's such a flattering thing. Right?
I was so flattered. In 2009, I was sworn in as a Goodwill Ambassador for United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime to combat human trafficking. And they asked me to do that because I had already been working on that topic since 2004 with Amnesty International. And one of the big topics that we covered in terms of worldwide violence against women was human trafficking, because over 70% of its victims are women and girls. I, you know, like most people in the aughts, didn't understand that slavery was still around, really, and that actually it had not disappeared, it had just gone underground, and more people in the world today are living in slavery than in any other time in recorded human history. There's 30 million people living in slavery today. So, and it's divided about equally between 50% labor and 50% sex trafficking. Both are horrific, both are unimaginable suffering for the victims. So it's something I became very passionate about. I have done 3, maybe now 4 films, 3 features and 1 documentary on the topic. I have one coming out next year called Sound of Freedom with Jim Caviezel about the true life story of Tim Ballard, who has an organization called Our Rescue, Operation Underground Railroad Hour. And he literally saves kids around the world who are being trafficked. He saved over 1,000 kids personally. He brings in like a kind of SWAT team, rescues kids, arrests pimps and buyers, works with local governments, is all up and up, like all in cooperation with anything that's established there.
What's that cat's name? Ballard.
Tim Ballard. You got to
God
follow
bless,
him.
Man. That's
you would like him.
guy.
I think you would really like him. He's pretty amazing. So anyway, I play his wife, but I've meandered away from the UN.
We're right on it.
But meeting people who were human trafficking survivors was one of the most powerful things in my life. I'd never seen people who had suffered so much except for Holocaust survivors.
Yes, that's the only thing it can be.
Their eyes just had this excoriated like quality to them, that they had suffered so much that I just saw that true nature of evil is really out there, alive and well today.
Yes, once you glimpse it up close.
Yeah. I've interviewed human traffickers. I interviewed a man named Manolo in Spain who I spoke to for 3.5 hours, and he said, you know, a woman is like this. She's a mercantile object to be traded. You know, in the old days of prostitution, we used to convince women that we loved them, trick them, say that, you know, we had a note on a car that they needed to pay off, or we were buying a fake apartment together. He said, now we don't do any of that. We just threaten them and their family and make them work by force.
What's it like to abut that sort of evil?
I started crying at a certain point because I felt like I was just, because now he was cooperating with the government, he was an informant. But I was like, you know what? You're not doing enough. Like, you know, you have to take each and every woman that you got into this. You've got to get them out now. Like, you can't rest till. And he said, "Oh, Senora, why are you crying? If I'd known this would upset you." I was like, "Don't worry about me. Worry about these women, these girls whose lives you are destroying." He actually married one of them, had children with them, so he had somewhat of a slight sympathy for them now after years. But you know what? You know where he came from? He was abused as a child. So then he just, you know, he was able then to be so inhuman. But amazingly, after I left, I got a letter like 6 months later through the UN saying, you know, thank Mira for her visit with Manolo. We don't know what she did, but it used to be that he was only giving us small tips, and now he's like ramped up his participation. Now we're bringing down like a ring of 5 different mafia kingpins. He completely changed after that interview. And I left it demoralized. I was like, there's nothing I can do, all this horrible. And then, but it's just because I cried. It's just because my humanity was affected by the awfulness, and somehow that did something. So you never know what influence you're gonna have. All you have to know is you have to try. You know, you have to, whatever skill set you have, if you care about something, and it doesn't matter what it is, you know, if you see something in the world that offends you, and you want to make a difference in it, you have your own unique skill set. And maybe that skill set just includes being empathic. So the fact that I cried after talking to him, because I'm not an investigative journalist, and I'm not used to keeping like a, you know, and then hearing everything, and I was like broken by it, and somehow that made, you know, a change.
The last Tumblr click.
Yeah. So that's been a huge part of my life for years and years.
I can see how engaged you are.
Yeah. And
I mean, I know you love acting, but
and, you know,
it's heartbreaking, but it's exhilarating to watch how activated you get.
Yeah, it's a huge thing for me.
Now listen, not to put too naive a point on it, and I sometimes get pissed and I become a 12-year-old on the school ground, but when I hear this Epstein guy might be charged with prostitution, I think, what are you giving
That's
him,
not
a Christmas
possible.
present?
A child is not capable of consent, therefore it's statutory rape and it's human trafficking.
Human trafficking.
Under federal law and under almost every single state law.
Okay, good. So I'm hearing
human
contrivances on TV that they might, that can't be true. As I was watching it, I thought, what are you kidding me? You're reducing the crime against the child if you charge him with that. That means she's some complicit figure in a sexual exchange for money.
There's no such thing as a child prostitute. There are only prostituted children, exploited children who are being raped and trafficked.
Well, they've got to hammer that guy.
He cannot be shielded by his privilege. He got away with it once. He had that sweetheart deal, and that was a travesty of justice, and all those poor now women that were brutalized by him.
A new one on NBC. It just breaks your heart.
Yeah. So, and let the chips fall where they may. Whoever is implicated, no matter what party, no matter what age, what religion, like, let them all fall. If they're raping kids, they deserve to go to jail.
If you can't do it on that subject, when can we ever have transparency? When can we ever use the antiseptic as sunlight? Coming up, Mira reveals the biggest risks she ever took, her proudest accomplishment, in a round of If You Only Knew. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Larry King Now. Dennis Miller filling in for Larry today. My guest, actress Mira Sorvino. It's funny, when I'm with Spade, kids come up to him about Tommy Boy. I was talking to Marlon Wayans recently, his White Chicks. People love Romy.
They do.
Michelle.
They love Romy and Michelle.
It must be your airport movie or something. People must come up to you all the time.
They came up to me. The first time I knew that it really made a difference, an indent in the culture, was I was at the Louvre Museum in Paris. And someone came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and it was this American teenager, and she was like, "I'm the Mary." I was like, "What?" "I'm the Mary." I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're doing lines from Romeo and Michelle?" It was like when I was a kid, we used to do. That's all she gave you.
It's so out of context.
Yeah, well, it was just, I just wasn't thinking, and it was like when I was a kid, we used to do Animal House lines. You know, and to realize that we were at this level now that people actually would do our lines outside of any, you know, relatable context. Right. And then now it's just grown and grown. And every year there's more and more popularity, it seems. Like, people literally dress up as us for Halloween like every year in greater and greater numbers. And sometimes I do little compilations, like I'll do like a collage of some of them. Then there's babies, and there's best girlfriends, and there's goth Romeo and Michelle's, and there's drag Romeo and Michelle's. And it's just such a compliment.
Just to keep revisiting them because people are so fond of them.
But Lisa would love to do a sequel. Robin Schiff, who created it, would love to do one. So eventually, maybe it will happen.
Yeah, well, it should, because people love that film. We play a game called If You Only Knew here at Larry King Now. First thing that comes into your mind. Biggest risk you ever took, Mira?
I think biggest risk was saying yes to my husband after 1 month together.
Oh.
And we had this big age difference, and everyone else thought we were crazy. And we got engaged a month after meeting each other, and now we're celebrating our 15-year wedding anniversary this summer, and we have 4 beautiful children. So I think, even his mother was like, when we told her 6 months in that we were engaged, she was like, "Are you sure?" Because everybody thought, "Oh, how could this last? He's younger than her.
The one.
Hollywood
You were the
marriage,"
one.
and it was perfect. So
with
that was,
Paul, with your relationship with your dad, you couldn't pick idiots.
Well, Dad loved him right away.
Yeah, he
right
did?
away, and he said, "I really like this, Chris. And if he were to ask you." And if you said, yes, you did, didn't you? I would be very much, he guessed. And I was like, I was so happy.
So they were happy as clams with the guy, too.
Yes.
15 years,
Yes.
Beautiful. Person you'd most like to meet, dead or alive? Is somebody from the past, somebody right now, who fascinates you?
My first thought was Jesus, and then the second thought was Martin Luther King. So both of them, for me, are such role models and heroes.
It's funny to me is when we talk about Jesus, we obviously don't know. I am not born again, but I'm a believer. And honest to God, I've been so low at points in my life where I said, please, let me have this road to Damascus moment, and it hasn't quite happened. But I'm a serious believer. I pray a lot and all that. But I often wonder, because we don't really know, it's just too long ago, is Martin Luther King like a latter-day a good man who walks amongst men, or is Jesus the Son of God? Or
I mean, I am a Christian. I've always been a Christian.
So is he's the Son of God, or just a Superman?
No, he's the Son of God.
All right.
But my personal hero, too. My
That's
inspiration.
Well,
I reach out for guidance and help, and even when I give my speeches, when I give them either on human trafficking or all the Me Too stuff, when we push for legislative change, and I need courage, I need to be brave, I need to be honest, and I need to get my point across. I pray to be a vessel.
I believe in Jesus too. I think sometimes, I say, Jesus, come inhabit me, and then he'll say, you got to get it together a little.
I'm more and more faithful, I feel like. But I do also feel like I have so many blessings that every day I'm grateful for my children, my family. It's like, it's so big, I can't even describe it. But when I was in my 3rd pregnancy with Holden, I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew something was wrong in the first trimester. I was having symptoms, and I was so worried. And I went into Notre Dame in Paris, and I sat there, and I was just praying, and I was weeping, as I always do in Notre Dame. And I'm just like crying and praying, please, God, help me. And all of a sudden, I had this incredibly strong feeling that I was cupped in the palm of God's hands. God. I felt like I was in these giant hands, and everything was going to be all right.
Beautiful.
And then it was all right. And he was born beautiful at 38 weeks, and the fattest of all my children, and super strong and smart, and not a blemish on him, and it all worked out.
I'm fascinated by you showing your humanity.
But when I said about choosing to marry my husband was the biggest risk I ever took, the one that came out the best. And literally the day that I met him, that morning, I had just been, I was kind of what you would call a serial monogamous, right? I'd had a 3-year relationship, a 4-year relationship. They, none of them were the one. And I had just broken up with somebody like that morning or the night before, and it was not a significant relationship. It was just dating for a couple of months, but I found out he was cheating, and so I was invited to my friend Samantha McMillan's party. So I'm driving, and I'm like, okay, I don't really want to go out tonight, but I should get out there. I should just go to my friend's party, and it was like a running charades party where everybody, grown-ups are doing board games, and I'm in my car, and I'm like, dear God, when am I going to meet my soulmate? And I met him that night. He was there in the kitchen. There he was. And then we spent every day together for a month, and then we got engaged, and that was it.
How lovely. Luxury you can't live without.
Long hot baths. I love hot baths. I cannot.
Languorous.
I cannot do them quickly, but I'm also always cold. I have very cold extremities, and so sometimes I feel like the only way I can get warm to the core is a bath.
Superpower you wish you had?
Fly. To fly. Yes.
Proudest accomplishment?
My children.
Yeah, you got 4 of them? How far apart?
I have a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old.
Beautiful. Yeah. How do they commingle? Good?
Good, yeah. I mean, like all kids, they'll have their fights, but they're there for each other,
issues.
And they're very loving and very cute, and I just adore them.
Yeah, what a blast. In our final segment, Mira is answering social media questions from you. And once again, you can see her in Stuber right after this with Mira Sorvino. Hey, welcome back to Larry King Now. Dennis Miller filling in for Larry today. My guest has been the delightful actress, Mira Sorvino. And I think listen, I don't like those slash things. People give too many slashes to themselves, but I'm going to give her the slash because the activism, she's done some heavy lifting here. A lot of people fly in, take the gift back, and tell a few jokes, but then there are people in the trenches, so God bless. Social media questions. Jason William Tenjum on Facebook. What fond memories does she have from Romy and Michelle's high school reunion? And is she the Mary or the Rhoda?
Oh, God. I would say Lisa's the Mary. I always thought Lisa was so beautiful and just she's so stunning with her comedy. She's so funny. I mean, she's really a master. Yeah, she's just amazing. You know, my kids now are obsessed with Friends, as all teenagers are. And they have seen every episode like 5 times. But I just watch her work, and I'm like, God, she's so brilliant. Like, everything she does is genius. Like, she's really genius.
Very deft. I always find her, that Phoebe thing can turn into an awkward caricature, but she's very deft with it.
Yeah, well, because it's not just, she's not dumb. She's, like, odd. Yes. And sometimes she can be really mean as Phoebe, and then other times really adorable. Like, she doesn't have to make her one thing or the other, and it's just such an interesting character.
Daniel Christopher Thomas on Facebook says, name a role that you would consider a personal best favorite. And best is a judgment you leave to the world, I think, but your favorite.
Well, we've already talked about Romy. I love Romy. I love Money Aphrodite. I did a movie that very few people have seen that Bernardo Bertolucci produced and his wife Claire Peplow directed. It came out the week of September 11th, so, or at least that was its fall that it came out. It premiered in Toronto that day. So it was just a really unfortunate time for everything in life, but also for a lighthearted movie to come out. It's called Triumph of Love, and it's based on an 18th century Marivaux play, and I work with wonderful Sir Ben Kingsley and Fiona Shaw, and I play a princess who disguises herself as a boy to try and win the heart of this young prince.
Lovely. I'm gonna watch
it was
this.
Really fun. And then I did another one recently called Union Square that I'm really fond of.
Tell me, what
Nancy
is it?
Savoca directed it. It's a quintessential little New York indie, and it's got shades of, like, it's got all these homages to famous Italian movies like Juliet of the Spirits by Fellini. She's got another one. You know, that there was a short directed by Roberto Rossellini, I believe, called La Vox Humana, where it's Anna Magnani on the phone breaking up with a lover, and you never see him. You only see her on the phone all this time as it goes through all this stuff. The first 5 minutes of the film are me on a cell phone with a boyfriend who's breaking up with me.
What a cool homage.
But I'm a really raucous, kind of crazy, bipolar Bronx Italian girl who's got a secret. And it's really, I think it's a terrific movie and a very sort of undiscovered gem because it had a tiny budget. And we had distribution. We went to Toronto. It got good reviews. And then our distribution company folded. And so then it was self-released. But there was just no money for it. So no one's seen it. But if people want to discover it now, I believe it's still on Apple iTunes. It's called Union Square. And I love it. So that's one of my favorites.
Do you love the Italian filmmakers?
Yes, of course. Yes. Well, being a half Italian girl, you know.
How often do you get the opportunity, Daniel Christopher Thomas also asked, you're Mandarin. You fluent
Very
in Mandarin?
little. I wish it was more. The last time I used it was at my kids' school. My son's class had an exchange student group from China come and visit them. And I came in to teach an improv class to the kids. And it turned out they had like 8 Chinese guest students in it, and most of them spoke no English whatsoever. So I had to try and explain the game in Mandarin, and my Mandarin was so flawed that I would forget words in the center, like the word for salt. You know, it was this like salt game that I was playing, and then I would just be like, it's that thing that makes things tastier. It's not MSG, and because I know the word for MSG, which is whey gene, because I'm allergic to it. But I kept forgetting the word. I think it's yan. But But anyway, it was still fun to communicate with them and everything. But I just don't brush it up often enough.
Here's parenting. Kids so want to fit into the collective when they're young. They don't want to be the outlier. That's why they ask the parents to drop them off a block away from school. You're over there speaking Mandarin, and the kid, Mom, even though it's such an interesting talent, it's just, it's sweet. Well, listen, you're a delight. It's groovy to talk to you.
Thank you. This has been really fun.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Tell Your Old Man, Stone Killer in my book. Can't believe he wasn't nominated for that. That absolutely boggles my mind.
Maybe Lifetime Achievement, Academy Lifetime Achievement for my father, Paul Sorvino. That would really be justice. So.
There you go. A big thank you to my guest, Mira Sorvino. You can see Mira in Stuber with Batista and Nanjiani.
Woo! You got it.
You brought me into the new world. A little plug for me. My special Fake News, Real Jokes is on Amazon Prime. Thanks for having me, and we'll see you next time.